Well, hey, welcome back to Leadership Clearly, the podcast for Christian leaders who want to grow with clarity, strengthen communication, and build teams that actually last. I'm Julie Wagner, leadership and communication coach, corporate leader, and your coach in this space where we tell the truth about leadership, lean on Jesus, and get really practical about what it actually takes to lead people. Okay, friends, today we are talking about something that I think has quietly cost more leaders their teams, their authority, and their effectiveness than almost anything else. And it's wrapped up in a word that sounds completely harmless. That word is nice. I want you to hear me on this. There is nothing wrong with being kind. There is nothing wrong with being warm. There's nothing wrong with being someone your team genuinely likes working for. Those are good things. Those are Jesus things, actually. We'll talk about that, I promise you. But somewhere along the way, a lot of us, and I'm going to put myself in this category because I have lived this, started confusing being nice with being good. And we started believing that if our team was happy with us all the time, if no one was uncomfortable, if every conversation felt warm and easy, that meant we were doing leadership right. But that belief, that's what's quietly destroying teams. It is quietly creating leaders who are deeply loved and completely ineffective. It's producing managers who their people genuinely adore and who cannot actually move a team forward to save their lives. So today, we're going to do something a little uncomfortable. We're going to pull apart this idea that being a nice leader and being an effective leader are somehow opposites, because they're not. They were never supposed to be. And the leaders who figure out how to hold both are the ones who build teams people are still loyal to a decade later. So grab your journal or your note-taking device, grab your coffee, your water, or your Alani Nu, and get ready. Let's go ahead and dive into it. And I do want to give you a quick heads up. This episode might sting a little, and I'm speaking this from personal experience as I was writing this episode out. If you're listening to this podcast, I'll be honest, you're probably a leader who actually cares about their people, someone who genuinely loves their people. You want to be a good boss. You want to be a good manager. You want to be a phenomenal leader. And what I'm about to say is going to challenge some of those things you have built your leadership identity around. So I want you to just sit with it. Don't throw the whole thing out. Take what's yours and leave the rest. Let me back up for a second and talk about where this belief came from, where the nice leader lie comes from. Because I don't think that any of us woke up one day and decided that we were going to be ineffective on purpose, okay? We got here for a reason. For a long time, the leadership world swung hard in one direction. The boss was the boss. The boss was scary. The boss told you what to do, and you better darn well have done it. There was very little warmth. There was very little humanity. Authority was wielded as a weapon, and people did not love their jobs, but they did them because they were afraid. And then, thank God, the pendulum started to swing. We got a generation of leaders who said, hold on, wait a minute, this is not working. People are not robots. We can lead with humanity. We can build cultures where people actually want to be. We can be warm and respected at the same time. And that was right. That was a needed correction. That swing of the pendulum gave us a lot of good things. It gave us psychological safety. It gave us leaders who can have feelings. It gave us workplaces where you can be a whole human and not just a productivity machine. But here's what happens with pendulums. They don't stop in the middle. They swing all the way to the other side. And what I see now, and I'm calling out the ladies right now. So what I'm seeing now, especially in women leaders, even more so in Christian leaders, and even more so in coaches and entrepreneurs who came up wanting to do this differently, is that we've overcorrected. We have swung so far away from the scary boss model that we have landed in a place where we're afraid to be any kind of boss at all. We've collapsed 3 different things into one big avoidance pile: authority, accountability, and discomfort. We see them as the same thing. We see all 3 of them as bad. So we avoid all 3 of them. We dress up that avoidance in a language of kindness, and we tell ourselves that we're being good leaders. But here's the truth: authority is not the same as being scary. Accountability is not the same as being mean. And discomfort is not the same as being unkind. In fact, I want you to write this one down. Discomfort is often the most loving thing you can give someone, because growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Always. There's no version of human development where someone moves forward without going through something that feels hard. Something I always say: if you're not growing, you're dying. So when you as the leader are the one creating the culture where nobody ever feels uncomfortable, you're not being kind. You're actually withholding the thing your team needs most from you. You're protecting them from the very pressure that would grow them. You're loving them out of their potential. That's the nice leader lie. And my friends, it's everywhere. I want to get really specific here, because this is where the wheels come off for a lot of us. The nice leader is not someone with a big personality flaw. The nice leader is usually a wonderful human being. That is what makes this so hard to see. Let me walk you through what this actually looks like in practice, okay? And I want you to be honest with yourself. Just notice, don't get defensive, but just notice if any of these are showing up in your leadership. The first one is the conversation you've been avoiding. There is someone on your team right now. You know exactly who it is because their name just popped right into your brain. Their performance has been slipping. Maybe their attitude has been off. Maybe they missed a deadline that mattered. Maybe they said something in a meeting that landed wrong. And you know you need to have a conversation with them about it. You've known probably for weeks, maybe even months, but that conversation hasn't happened yet because you don't want to make them feel bad. You don't want to damage the relationship. You're hoping is, the word here. You're hoping that it will resolve itself. You're telling yourself that you're giving them grace. But this is what's actually happening. You are protecting your feelings about the conversation. That team member is not getting the chance to grow. They don't know that there's a problem. They might know, but they most likely don't know there's a problem. They're not even being given the dignity of clear feedback. They're operating at a level beneath their potential. And guess what? You're letting them down because your discomfort is more important to you than their development. That is not kindness. That is cowardice with a kind face on it. I told you this was going to hit hard. And I'm speaking to myself on all 3 of these, okay? The second one is the bar that keeps moving down. This one is a little sneakier. The standard was clear when the project started, right? The expectation was named, the deadline was set, and then it didn't get met. And instead of holding the bar, you quietly lowered it. And you said, no worries. But guess what? There were worries. You said, it's all good. We'll figure it out. When what you really meant was, I'm going to have to figure this one out myself. You did the work that was someone else's job because it was easier than asking why they had not done it. And every time you do that, the bar drops a little bit. And fast forward a year later, your entire team is operating at that level that is significantly below what you originally hired them to do. And then you can't figure out why everything feels so heavy. It feels heavy because you're carrying it, all of it, by yourself, because you were too nice to make anyone else carry their portion. And the third one, this is the feedback sandwich that has no meat in it. You know this one. You sit down with someone to give them feedback. You start with 3 compliments. You bury the actual feedback somewhere in the middle, wrapped up in so much softening language that it doesn't even register as feedback. You close with another compliment and a reassurance. That person feels out walking great. You feel like you handled it, and guess what? Nothing changes because nothing was said. You actually didn't deliver the feedback. you, you delivered a hug with a whisper of concern in the middle. And the person you were trying to help out, guys, they didn't even hear it. I want to call out something specifically for women leaders because I think we get hit with this harder. We have been socialized, sometimes since childhood, to make sure everyone around us is comfortable. We've been told that our likability is our currency. We have been told that being too direct, too clear, too firm makes us a certain kind of word that starts with a B. And I know you're thinking of it right now. And so we soften everything. We over-explain. We apologize for things we did not do wrong. We make ourselves smaller in conversations where our job was actually to take up more space. And here's the painful truth. When you do that, you're not protecting your team. You're protecting yourself. You're protecting your image. You're protecting your need to be liked. And that is costing the people you lead. So the fourth one is the way nice leaders tend to deal with conflict between team members. There might be a tension between two of your people. You can feel it. Everyone can feel it. It's affecting the work. And what does the nice leader do? She becomes the messenger. She talks to person A, and then she talks to person B. She softens what each one of them said about the other, and then she goes in and manages that relationship for them. She doesn't bring them into a room together. She doesn't name the elephant. She doesn't require them to speak directly to each other like the adults that they are, because that would be uncomfortable. So instead, she becomes the bottleneck for every interpersonal issue on her team. And Lord Almighty, she ends up exhausted, and the conflicts never actually resolve. They just get rerouted through her. Notice what is common across all 4 of these. The nice leader is making their team's experience small in order to keep their own discomfort small. That's the trade. Their growth for your comfort, their development for your peace, their potential for your popularity. When you say it out loud like that, it doesn't sound very nice at all, does it? Okay, now let me show you what's on the other side, because I don't want to spend this whole episode tearing down the nice leader without showing you what we're actually trying to build here. The effective leader, and I want to be clear, the effective leader who is also deeply kind, because those are not opposites, does a few things a little differently. She has the conversations, the hard one, the one she doesn't want to have. She has it on time. She does not wait. She does not over-prepare for 3 weeks. She does not script it down to the syllable. She walks in. She names what she's been noticing. She questions. She listens. She gets curious. And she leaves the conversation with a clear path forward. Maybe it's hard. Maybe it's uncomfortable, but it happens. And the person on the other end of it walks away with the information that they didn't have before and a real opportunity to change something. That, my friends, is kindness. That is what loving someone enough to be honest with them actually looks like. She holds the bar. The expectation was clear. The deadline mattered. The standard was the standard. And when something falls short, she does not silently absorb it. She does not lower the bar to accommodate. She asks the question, what happened? What got in the way? What do you need to be different next time? And then she expects the answer to actually result in change. This is not harsh. This is honoring the calling she hired her team to step into. It's saying, I believe you can do the work at this level, and I'm going to keep treating you like you can, even on the days you have not been able to do that. She gives clear feedback, not buried, not softened so much that it loses its meaning, clear, specific, actionable, delivered with warmth, yes. Delivered with care for the other person, absolutely. But guess what? It's been delivered. The feedback actually makes it from her mouth to their ears in a language they can understand and act on. There's no game of telephone happening. There's no decoding required. They walk out knowing exactly what she said and what she needs to be different. She takes up the space her role requires her to take up. She does not shrink. She does not apologize for having an opinion. She does not soften her authority into oblivion. When she's in a room, you can tell that she's the one in charge, not because she's dominating it, but because she's anchored in it. There's a settled quality about her, a clarity, a confidence that is not arrogance, but it's sturdiness. She lets their people have their hard things. When two members are in conflict, she does not become the relationship manager. She brings them into a room. She names the dynamic. She facilitates the conversation, but she requires them to do the actual repair work themselves. Because guess what? We're all adults here. And because she respects them too much to do it for them. Do you see what's happening here? The effective leader and the nice leader are not opposites. They're actually deeply related. The effective leader is the more loving version. The effective leader is the one who cares so much about her team's growth, she is willing to be uncomfortable for them. The effective leader is the one whose kindness has muscle in it. And here's the part that nobody talks about. No one tells you this when you step into leadership. Your team can feel the difference. They might not be able to name it, right? They might just not have the words for it, but on a deep level, they can tell whether you're leading them or just liking them. The leader people stay with for years is not the one who never made their employees feel uncomfortable. It's the one who saw something in them they didn't see yet and refused to let them stay smaller than what their calling was. I want to take us into scripture here for a few minutes because this is where I think the whole conversation really gets its foundation. And I want to start with Jesus because the people who tell you that being a Christian leader means being soft or being agreeable or never making anyone feel uncomfortable, I have a feeling those people have never actually read the Gospels. Jesus was the most loving person who ever walked the earth. Hold on to that. It's absolutely true. The Bible tells us over and over that he was moved with compassion, that he wept, that he ate with sinners and welcomed children, and he washed the feet of his own disciples. Jesus is the standard of love. He was also the most direct person who ever walked the earth. He flipped tables in the temple. He called the religious leaders a brood of vipers. He told Peter, who he loved, "Get behind me, Satan." When Peter tried to talk him out of his calling, he looked at the rich young ruler in the eye and told him to go sell everything he had, even though he knew it would make him walk away sad. He did not chase him down. He also didn't soften the message to make it more palatable. He told the truth, and he let the man choose what to do with it. That's not a nice leader. That's an effective leader. That is the most loving leader that has ever existed. And if Jesus had been operating from the nice leader playbook, none of us would be Christians right now. He would have softened the gospel into something that didn't require anything of anyone, and he would have ended his ministry beloved and forgotten. There's a verse that I think about constantly in this context. So it's Proverbs 27:6. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of the enemy are deceitful. I want that to sit with you for a moment. The wounds of a friend are faithful. They're hard, true, uncomfortable things that someone who loves you will tell you. And yes, those things sometimes wound. They're faithful though. They're loving though. even when they hurt. Shoot, even especially when they hurt. But the kisses of an enemy, those smooth words, the easy reassurances, the agreement that costs nothing, the niceness that makes everything okay on the surface, those are the things that are deceitful. They feel like love, but they're not. They're counterfeit. The leader who softens everything but never says the hard thing, who lets the bar slide because she doesn't want to be uncomfortable, is not loving her team. She's offering them the kisses of an enemy, and her team can feel it. Again, they might not be able to name it, but over time, they're going to lose respect for her because deep down, every human knows the difference between someone who tells the truth and someone who tells them what they want to hear. The leaders that Jesus called were not the smoothest, okay? They were not the most agreeable. They were the ones who were most willing to tell the truth in love. Paul does this constantly in his letters. He writes to the Corinthians and praises them and rebukes them in the same paragraph. He writes to the Galatians and says, "You fools, who has bewitched you?" He loves them enough to be direct with them. He honors them enough to tell them when they're off track. This is the model, my friends. That is the calling. Direct truth, delivered in love, for the good of the person hearing it, not for the comfort of the person hearing it. Speak the truth in love. Paul says this in Ephesians, not speak the truth without love, not speak love without truth, both at the same time, held together. That's the integration. That is what we're building towards. So at this point, you might be going, okay, Jules, so how do we actually do this? How do you actually become a leader who is deeply warm and deeply effective? Both kind and clear, both loved and respected. I'm going to give you 3 practical shifts that you can start making this week. The first one is to separate the relationship from the standard. This is a mindset shift more than a behavioral shift, but it is the foundation. I want you to write it down. The way I treat someone is not the same as what I expect from them. You can love someone fully and still expect their best work. You can have a warm relationship with someone and still hold them to a high bar. The kindness lives in how you actually show up with them. The effectiveness lives in what you require from them. They're 2 different lanes. They're not competing. When you stop seeing them as opposites, you free yourself to be fully warm and fully firm at the same time. The second shift is to start saying the thing within 24 hours. Make this a rule. The longer you sit on a piece of feedback, the harder it gets to deliver. The longer you wait to have the hard conversation, the more the situation calcifies. So set yourself a rule. When you notice something that needs to be addressed, give yourself 24 hours maximum to address it. Maybe less. Maybe you take a beat to think about how to deliver it, but you do not sit on it for 2 weeks while you build it up in your head into something it does not need to be. I will tell you what happens when you do this. The conversations get easier, every single one of them, because they get smaller. You're addressing the things while they're still small, not after they've grown into a mountain. Small problems have small conversations. Big problems require big conversations. The choice you make is what size you want the conversation to be. And this is something that I have taken into my parenting. So I have I have teenagers. Oh my Lord, I have teenagers. I have an adult child. And one of the things that I always told them when we were younger, like when all of us were younger and they were just little nuggets, was if there was any kind of issue, any kind of falsehood, because we all know kids, they lie a lot. Did you eat that cookie? No, I didn't eat the cookie. And then they have chocolate all over their face, right? If there was an argument between, brother and sister, anything like that, or they were rude or something that needed correction, we had a 24-hour rule in our house. not a 72-hour rule, not a 1-week rule, 24 hours. 24 hours. And I have to tell you, putting that into practice ever since my children were young, the relationship that me and my kids have, the relationship that my two children have with each other, even despite their age difference, which is about 3.5, 4 years, it is solid because we love each other, but we address the things while they're still small and we don't let them get into those big problems and big conversations. So, parenting, if you're a parent, this is absolutely something you can take into your parenting skills. Just a little note for the day. All right. So the third shift is to ask yourself one question before you avoid a hard moment. Here's the question. Am I making this decision for them or am I making it for me? Am I softening this feedback for them or for me? Am I lowering the bar to take care of them or to take care of my discomfort? Am I avoiding this conversation because it's the right move for the team or because it's the easier move for me? That question alone, if asked honestly, will revolutionize your relationship. Almost every nice leader move is actually a self-protection move. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. And once you cannot unsee it, you can choose differently. The goal is not to become harsh. The goal is not to lose your warmth. The goal is not to swing the pendulum back to the scary boss model. The goal is to integrate, to become a leader whose kindness has a spine, whose love has muscle, whose warmth includes the courage to say the true thing. That is the kind of leader Jesus was. That was the kind of leader Paul was. And that is the kind of leader your team is actually hungry for, even if they wouldn't say it in that way. Hey, before I close real quick, if today's episode is bringing up the realization that there are conversations you've been avoiding, standards that may have been quietly slipping, or feedback you've been softening into nothing, and you want a framework for actually delivering hard truth in a way that lands, the Clarity Code Bootcamp was built exactly for this. It's 5 days, 4 communication types, and a repeatable strategy for the conversations that actually matter. The link is in the show notes. If this episode hits a nerve, go check it out. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Here's what I want you to do this week. Just one thing. I want you to think of the one conversation you've been avoiding. That one person you know you need to talk to. That one piece of feedback you've been sitting on. That one standard that has been quietly sliding. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You thought of it the second I said it. This week, I want you to have that conversation. Not next month, not when it gets worse. This week, set a meeting, walk in, be warm, be clear, be honest, tell the truth in love. Hold the bar. Let discomfort be in the room without trying to make it disappear, because the discomfort is doing work. It's the soil where growth happens. And then I want you to notice what happens after. Notice if there's any relief. Notice how much lighter you feel. Notice that the relationship did not actually collapse. Notice that the person was probably hungry for the honesty and maybe they just didn't know how to ask for it. Notice that the kindness was in the directness all along. That's what we're building. Leaders who are warm and clear. Leaders who are kind and direct, loved and effective. Not one or the other, but both. If this episode resonated with you, I would be so honored if you shared it. Send it to a leader in your life who's been wrestling with this exact same thing. I would love to hear which of the 4 nice leader patterns hit closest to home for you. DM me on Instagram, shoot me an email, tell me what's shifting. I love hearing from y'all. Remember, faithful are the wounds of a friend, Be the kind of leader who is willing to be a faithful friend to the people you lead, especially when it costs you a little comfort. I will see you next week. Keep leading clearly. If today's episode resonated with you and you're realizing that leadership requires more clarity, more courage, and more consistency than you've been operating with, I want to invite you into something deeper. The Clarity Code is my new leadership bootcamp designed to help you slow down, get clear, and lead with confidence when conversations are hard, decisions are heavy, and people are counting on you. This isn't about fixing everyone else. It's about strengthening how you lead so your words, your presence, and your follow-through actually build trust. If you're ready to step into leadership with greater clarity and conviction, I'd love for you to join us inside the Clarity Code. Link is found in the show notes. And if Leadership Clearly has been encouraging or grounding for you, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. We release new episodes every Monday to help you start your week off with clarity, encouragement, and strong leadership perspective. I'm glad you're here. Keep leading well. I'll see you next week.